So this is the Afterburn. So if you have a comment or question about today's teaching, you can raise your hand, and Steve will come around with the mic. If you're on live stream, Rob will go ahead and make note of it. I hope that this is making sense. I hope these things are a blessing to you. Look, it's not your standard word study where we're just going to learn, well, here's where it says love, and here's where it says Torah. I'm going to try to help you understand the transformative stuff in your life, trying to understand what's going on in this book. Every teaching is supposed to be something you can take something out of it, if not a whole bunch, and put right away today in your life and be that much little bit more heading in the right direction, okay? A technique, a tool, information, something that you don't have a relationship with that you need to, something maybe you need to not have any more relationship, whatever. Okay, my desire is to make this functional. Halachic, you can walk this out, amen? All right, Steve, I'm sure you have a comment or question. You could start.
No, I don't have anything.
Oh, yes, you do.
All right, here, I gotta take, I can't see. All right, I don't know if it's a question or comment, but maybe just kind of come on to what you said, because you said, to me, I would say that his righteousness afflicts us because we all know, wait a minute, because we hold on to all we know that's not Torah, but we make excuses so we don't have to address them. And that's why we can't delight in his Torah, because our personal interests are not encompassed in Torah, or they're lawless.
That's true. That's
All
true.
right, okay, good. And then it says, I seem to notice too, even in myself, it's hard that we don't see his kindness when we get a no, because it's to the answer of our prayer that we're seeking, and that's the only time we equate kindness to him is when we get a yes, so we need to refocus that understanding. And that's all I really had right there.
Amen. All right, that's a really, really powerful point. That last point, just keep that in mind. I think he's absolutely right. We sometimes only look at kindness when we get what we want. Okay? And when we don't get what we want, well, why are you so mean? What do you mean? Well, you didn't give me what I wanted. Well, because I'm giving you what you need. See, it's not kind for me to give you what you want if it's going to mess up what you need. The kindness is to not give you what you want so that you can have what you need. So well put. Okay, Ati?
Like, what if it was the opposite? Like, what if you prayed for something and you got what you needed, but then later on you found yourself being afflicted? So, like, I know he made a really good point, but what if it's the opposite, but still there's supposed to be something where it's good for you?
All right, well, some of that may need counsel, but understand, David said, I trust, okay? It's in your trustworthiness that you afflicted me. So in giving him what he needed, part of that was the affliction. So giving you what you need still may be afflicting, all right? Look, you needed Torah, and guess what? As soon as you got it, you lost family, you lost friends, you got affliction. He gave you what you need, but yet you got affliction as part of that. Because part of that affliction is also to see how serious you are. Okay? Always remember the Jacob wrestling match metaphor. Okay? The messenger popped his hip to see whether or not he would let go in that kind of level of pain. And if you've ever popped anything, that's a lot of pain. Okay? And he didn't let go. He says, you can do whatever you want. I'm not letting go. That's part of the affliction. This goes back to the parable of the sower of the seed. What kind of ground are you? Because just because he's giving you what you need, and he's giving you all that good stuff, like the Torah, the right rulings, all the other things, doesn't mean that you don't get affliction with that as a part of the trial to see just how well you're going along. Go back to the baptism of fire teaching. That covers that quite a bit, you know? The fire is going to always be around to see how much you've learned, also to see how serious you are. Are you going to let go? Is there any way to get you to let go? All right? And you have to have you're going to have to kill me. I'm not letting go. Okay? All right, next. Okay, bring it to Rabbi Tom.
Thank you. In the Yod section, in the first verse here, the second sentence, at least in English, I'm not sure what it is in Hebrew, in English it says, make me understand that I might learn your commandments. I just thought that's a very interesting way of putting putting his request, David says, make me do this.
Amen. Okay, and I think we talked about it when I covered that section. I talked about this a lot. As a matter of fact, I was watching somebody this morning with a live service, and they were trying to talk about, because every now and then I check on a bunch of things, and I check pulses while I'm eating breakfast, and the teacher was trying to talk about, that idea of getting a stony heart taken out and changed to a fleshly heart and that kind of stuff, and how Yahweh is going to give you this. But he never understood, except from the Christianized mindset of this magical waving of a hand, what it looks like, how he gives you something, or how he does, as Rabbi Thomas pointed out, makes you understand. How does he make you to understand? Okay? Experience. You try something, and it gets a certain result. You try it again, it gets a different result. Until you get the result that he tells you you should be getting and that you're looking for, you don't understand. But once you get it working, now you've been made to understand. Okay? By what? By your experience. Okay? That's why people say, look, trial and error. You learn through that. So sometimes you have to try something one way, it doesn't work. You try it another way, it doesn't work. Till finally you try it and it works. Guess what? All that experience did, it made you understand the right way to do it the way that works. All right? So how does he give you a different heart? He helps you go through experiences that make you realize you need to have a different heart. I mean, I can tell you that your emotional status at any moment, happy, sad, whatever it is, right? Label it, whatever your emotional label. I can tell you informationally that that's a choice. I can't make you to understand that. I can't give you that understanding, but you can learn through experience that that information is true. Because you can find yourself in a situation, have an awareness of that information, and say, I was told that this is a choice. And then say, I wonder if I could choose to feel differently right now. I feel very happy, sad, mad, depressed, whatever it is. Could I actually choose to feel differently? I was told it's a choice. I wonder if that actually is possible. And you may struggle the first time since it's something you'd never done. And then you try again. Maybe you don't know the right way to do it. Maybe you don't realize that sometimes to feel different, I'm just using that as a metaphor, you have to physically be in a different way. Like if you're going to be curled up in a ball on your bed, you're not going to necessarily feel joy and happiness. Okay? If you're in these, or if you're slunched over in a physical position of depression. Okay? Or if you're kind of pounding your fist and pacing and angry, then that's not the way you behave when you're at peace. You may choose to just go ahead and sit down and breathe differently, because you breathe a certain way when you're in a certain state of emotion. You feel a different way because of your physical body as well as because of what's going on in your head. So by trying different things, you come to know and realize, and so now that's part of what made you understand or gave you something. So we read here when he says, David says, make me understand. He's saying, you can allow anything and cause anything in my life that'll help me have the experiences necessary so that I can understand. Okay? Create in me a clean heart. How do you create in me a clean heart? Well, you show me the fruit of the good, the dirty heart, and the fruit of a clean heart, and then start walking down a path. Bring people into my life that have a clean heart and say, oh, you want what they have? Well, you have to have the kind of heart they have. We get to read that here with David's heart. So that's how he creates in you. He motivates you to want it and go through the process. It's not just waving his hand at you or just saying, let it be so. Because I know the waving hand thing might not work for everybody, because after all, he spoke, let there be light. He spoke, and then things came to be. Okay, so he's not just going to speak and say, okay, you have a clean heart. Okay, I spoke, and you now are made to understand these things. Or now you have a heart of flesh instead of stone. What did he do to the stiff-necked people? He broke their necks. Okay? If you've ever been to a chiropractor, you've had a joint that was all messed up and all stiff, sometimes they'll get very aggressive with that thing to get it loose. Or a physical therapist, they will might have, because I remember my wife when she had broken her wrist and she went to the physical therapist after it was healed and everything else, but it was so stiff because she hadn't really used it. They had to break past a lot of the adhesions, a lot of the calcifications and everything to get that thing moving again. Okay, and it was painful, and it wasn't fun, and she had exercise to do, but that made her more flexible. Went to the therapist, make me more flexible. Okay, that was painful, that wasn't fun, and it wasn't enough. She had to go back and do more herself. Yahweh does some of the things, teaches you how to do it. Say, here, this thing I just do to you, you need to do that every day. You see? Stop abdicating your part in everything. You have a part in everything. He only does what you can't. He will never do what you won't. You have to receive that. You need to know he will never do what you won't. Okay? You got to own that. Because people come to me a lot for counsel. I'm looking at them like, what's the problem? Okay, there's a problem. I say, but here's the problem. This thing here, why aren't you doing it? Well, you wait on him to do it. No, you need to do it. Well, can you do it? Well, yeah. Well, then, obviously, then it's a won't. So why won't you do it? Why aren't you doing it? Well, it's too much work. It's too this, it's too that. Oh, there's a problem between your ears and in your chest. Okay, it's a head-heart problem. Remember I talked about having heart. Those out there who have heart are the ones like, I'm not letting go until you kill me. Okay? Those without heart quit after the first boo. The first little piece of struggle. You got to have heart to hang in there. Listen to the teaching, endure, and receive the crown of life. A little bit of end times eschatology for you. Well, just some end time stuff. Ooh. All right, well, we talked a little bit about this in the teaching. Okay, so if there's no rapture bus, okay, if there's no rapture thing the way that Christianity says it, so then what is Yahweh going to actually do? Well, he's going to allow some people to go through some things. We know there's those that are martyred and stuff, but others that are protected, and he puts his hand over them in some manner. So is he going to do this in some unique, non-scripturally established way where he just magically like whisks everybody off somewhere? Or is he going to put in place structure that you need to trust so that you can be safe? See, they didn't just all decide that they heard a voice that said, okay, guys, leave Egypt. Moses came with Aaron to put some leadership structure in place to bring them out of Egypt. And as soon as he got them out, he put more structure in place to keep them safe in the wilderness journey before entering the land. So if this is going to be the metaphor, so you have first them coming out, then they journey, and then they arrive. And in that process, they become structured. But if we know that's Yahweh's plan, and we know that Paul talks about it in Ephesians when he talks about the fivefold, etc., like that, then we have to trust, like David says here in verse 75 and other places in Scripture about we trust him, okay? We fear him and we trust him. Now, I know he says in trustworthiness you've afflicted me, but it's the idea is a trust. Do we trust him? And if we trust him, then we have to believe that there is good leadership and good structure that is not going to do the things to you that were done to you in your past. Otherwise, we're in trouble if there isn't, because that's the way he's always done it. That notwithstanding all the teachings that are out there all over the internet by Messianics and others against structure. Okay? And there are some prominent ones out there, ministries that all of you have listened to that I'm not going to mention now, that have done teachings on a whole different model for how Yahweh does things. And it's, again, perverting the truth. And it's leading people into a very dangerous place because the structure brings the safety. That is what Yeshua taught. That's what the fathers always taught. That's why Moses then was putting in heads of this and heads of that, and everything else was by structure. And remember, what got them in trouble was when the structure wasn't adhered to. When Saul stepped out from under structure, Samuel was actually higher, it went bad. Okay? So you have to follow structure. And I know everybody gets all triggered, beep, 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 like that with the buttons, but that's because we've all experienced it badly, because that's the enemy's greatest tool, is to have you not want structure, because after all, it's not a commune that's coming, okay? It's not like, the world is going to turn into Woodstock, and we're all just going to commune and just love, love, love. No, a king is coming, and he's bringing a kingdom, and there will be those that are kings and priests in that kingdom. That's a structure. And the king is coming with a rod of iron, which is an idea of imposing discipline and structure, imposing authority properly. And so we have to figure this out. And that's the hard part, is can we find structure that we can trust? Now, how are you going to know if you don't taste of it? And if you don't allow for it also to be a little afflicting at times, but understand that it's coming from love and it's what you need. Because some of that may trigger flashbacks to something that was similar but not the same, so you emotionally respond as if it's this thing that's similar. Because after all, nobody likes discipline. The bad structure can give you discipline, a good structure can give you discipline, but if you're so connecting discipline to the wrong structure, you're going to all of a sudden now trigger all of those emotions. But when he goes and we get to that tribulation period, you're going to need to know that I believe structure will be there to tell you we all need to go here now and stay here. And are you going to trust that instruction? Or is it going to feel way too controlling and cultish and whatever? But see, before that, you need to get to know the leadership and get to know what Yahweh's doing and see, is Yahweh there? See, is the pillar of fire there? Is his presence there? Because as we go into more and more difficult times, there's going to be more and more need to find trustworthy structure. Do we not agree with that? Okay? Now, listen carefully, though. It's not imposed structure. It's not someone saying, everybody needs to just come listen to me, and everybody needs to just, whatever, and get all involved in your life on every little detail. There's a lot of cultist places out there that do plenty of that if you want to go there. It's you voluntarily choosing to submit to what you have vetted as being that structure to trust. Because you see, with Moses, when he sent out the 12, only 2 of them trusted the leadership. 10 of them did not. There was pride and ego, and let's go back to Egypt, and who made, you Moses, who put you in charge? I don't know, Yahweh did. Okay? Well, a leader should be able to say the same thing. People might say to me, well, who put you in charge? Well, Yahweh did, but that's not for me to impose on you. That's for you to figure out, right? Does it make sense? Because if he didn't, then why are you here? I mean, if Yahweh didn't give this to me and put me here and put the words in my mouth, then why people here? I wouldn't be here if the teacher didn't convince me through watching and listening that Yahweh's words are coming out of his mouth and Yahweh put them there. Why would you be there? By the way, that doesn't make him perfect. Doesn't mean he's not going to get on your nerves or do some other thing that might drive you crazy and disappoint you and everything else. I don't see any perfect people in the book. I only see one person, and he's not a person the way we think of him. It's the Almighty who put on a flesh suit. Okay? Yeshua is the only perfect person we see in the book. Not one king, not one prophet. Prophets weren't perfect. Nobody is perfect. So why do we expect? Don't expect that. But recognize, is this structure Yahweh's? Is this structure being built by him because you're going to need it? As we head into worse and worse times, and right now we see the world is definitely heading into some challenging times. Is it the end times? I will never say that until it actually is, and then we'll all know because we're in it. Okay? All right? But right now, we might be going through another one of the cyclical bad times, and there's been quite a few of those. And you know what? The few that survived through it survived because they were in little pockets of structure. Think about that. It's in the pockets of structure that the safety was there to preserve the remnant. And everybody's like, oh, he's going to drive me dizzy with this structure. If it irritates you, it's because you still have something that's got to be fixed. Because if you get it, you're excited about it. If you get it, you appreciate, not so much excited, you appreciate it. You feel safer. You feel like Abba's got his hand on the whole situation. You feel like it's under control if you have that. If you don't feel that, it's because you still have issues. All right? I'm just saying. Or you've not tasted it enough to put it to the test and test drive it and interact, etc., with like you might need to do. This is not a game. This is not playing at church. This is not a place that you just go. We're forming a forever kingdom. We're forming a body. Or I should say we. He's forming a community that's forever. He's forming a body. And that body has a structure. Okay? My pinky just doesn't run off and decide to do whatever it wants. The brain tells the pinky what to do. I would have a lot of problems, and there are people with wiring issues, right, because they have birth defects and other things they were born with, where they can't control their body because the structure is not working vertically correctly in their own body. And what a challenge and awful thing that is for people that cannot control parts of their bodies because the wiring is off. That's not their fault. We're not picking on them at all. But there's a great metaphor for you to understand that. Okay? Because those things are not supposed to be that way. Now, he's allowed or caused that to happen. I get that. But what I'm saying is, in a structure, everything is submitted to the authority of the structure. My hand only moves because I want it to move. And it moves exactly how I want. Okay? I don't try to pick up the book and I end up picking up the pen. I pick up the book if I'm trying to pick up the book. Amen? Because of the structure. Okay, the hand doesn't just decide, well, I don't want a book, I want a pen. Well, I want to read. No, I want to write. Well, I'm going to argue with my hand. But that's what the body does, isn't it? Yes. That's exactly what the body does. I want to read. Nope, I want to write. So I'm doing this. So my hand grabs a pen, my eyes are trying to go to the book. Now I can't turn a page because the pen wants to be over here, and I've already read this page, now what? But there has to be trust. See, the body doesn't have a trust problem. It's wired this way, okay? My hand had no choice to be a part of this arm that's attached to this torso, that's connected to this brain, etc. You know what I'm saying? The hand had no choice. You have a choice. You're a part of this voluntarily. When we did the mikveh declarations, when we did that immersions, the 8 declarations have in them, almost in each one, of my own free will, I have chosen to do the following. To make the following commitment, to submit myself, to keep and be a part of and take on responsibility, whatever it is. But it says, of my own free will, I've chosen. So you get to choose to be in the body and then choose to do what the brain is telling, which is the Father himself, through the structure, communicating to us. By the way, does the brain talk to the pinky directly? No, it goes through a nervous system that connects to my pinky. So there's a structure of communication that flows from the top to the pinky, to the hand. And so that's the same thing with the Father. Through the Son, through the ministry structure, through the Ruach HaKodesh, the information flows out. If you're going to use these metaphors, use them completely. I'm not saying that anybody used it wrong. I'm saying, understand, we're all supposed to be part of the body. Well, what does the body look like? Isn't the body connected to a brain? And the brain tells the rest of the parts of the body what it needs to do? And the body then functions as designed? And how is it connected? Through a system, okay, of communication, through the neurons and through the whole electrical system of your body. That's his structure. You have the metaphor. He gives you the metaphor of the body. Oh, we're so hung up with the structure. And then, of course, the person in the front here has to always thinking, the more I say, the more people think I sound like a cultist person just wants everybody whatever. Look, go somewhere else then, okay? You need this. Go find it in whatever form you think you can tolerate it. I don't know what else to say. You know, I said this a couple months back. I'm through. I'm finished. Whatever. Apologizing for what my role is. Okay. What am I supposed to ignore what Abba's doing and all the people moving here and all the things that are happening and all the growth that's happening and think, well, I'm just a guy who gets up to speak like anybody. There's something happening here. Okay, and I appreciate and take it very seriously. I know that it doesn't make me any more perfect, but it means I have a larger responsibility for the things that I say and do on the effect it has on other people and the way he will hold me accountable. That I get. All right? And it's a big deal. It's a scary big deal. I shouldn't say it that way. It would be scary if I didn't trust that what he's doing. It's a big deal. It's scary for you because you have to trust that he put me here, and then you have to trust a man in a position of authority. That's hard. It's not scary for me because I already trust and know what he's doing with me, but you have to see it. I can't convince you. He has to convince you. Amen? All right, who's next?
Something else came up when you were talking. To me, I think a lot of us equate trust with knowing the facts, and when we get wrong facts, we don't extend our trust. And then for Abba, it's his trust comes in relationship. So that's where our disconnect is, because we have a totally different mindset in how we extend our trust to him, and his expectation is different than what we're offering.
Amen. Look, Deuteronomy 17 tells you the same thing, and Deuteronomy 18. He expects you to trust him by trusting those he puts in positions. Now, the thing is, you've already had a lot of people claim to be in positions who were not necessarily appointed by him, and you bought into it, and you were abused, and you were misled, and you're afraid to be fooled again. I get that, right? You know, almost like the Who song, you know, here's the new pastor, same as the old pastor. You know, here's the new truth, same as the old truth. I got fooled again. This is between you and him. You're going to have to trust. The book tells you this. It's supposed to exist. Paul tells you that. In case you were wondering if Deuteronomy 17:18 is supposed to still exist, well, Paul tells the Ephesians that it does. And so it's supposed to exist. So now it's up to you to find it, right? And then if you find it, stop fighting it. All right, who's next? Okay, Jana.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I struggled. I didn't want to get up and say anything because this was so convicting. But I just want to say thank you to you and to the leadership, Manny and Rob and everybody that has been there. I have been afflicted, but only recently have I been able to thank Abba for those afflictions as opposed to complain about them. And it's literally within the past week or so. But so I just want to thank everybody for that has been there. I really do appreciate it. I had somewhat of a humbling breaking point again. And I went to Abba and I just said, I don't get it. I'm 45. I should have all this stuff down. Why am I making these same mistakes? Why am I here? Why do I keep running into the same brick wall and struggling? Why, whatever. And then we've been doing the Psalm 119 challenge, and I've been doing it, and I'm getting a lot. Even one thing that I just want to say real quick is it was over and over again. I shared this with Manny. A man after Abba's own heart continuously said, teach me your ways. Show me your ways. Didn't mean he had all the answers. It didn't mean that he was perfect and did everything right all the time. I mean, I'm sure he was better than me, but that's not the point. He constantly said, teach me, because I'm falling short or I'm not doing what I should be doing. So that was something that I just had to lay down, and I said, thank you, and teach me your ways. Thank you for those shortcomings, because now I can learn, and I may trip up again, but now I can learn. So that is my cry. As Anna was saying, her cry of her heart is, teach me how to trust. Teach me how to know that you're there, and teach me how to do it right the next time.
Amen.
So, thank you.
Amen. Wait, hold on. Give her back the mic. Give her back the mic. Give her back the mic. Okay. So, and this is not to embarrass Janet at all. This is just for, I think, for everybody's benefit. Okay. So, in the interactions that you had, did the leadership, me specifically, say anything that was hard to hear?
Yes.
Okay. Did the recognition come that it was what you needed to hear?
Only when I put my pride aside, yes.
Okay. See, I was saying that's part of the structures. That's what I'm saying is I know we've had some moments that are the same moments that everybody, by the way, would have. If you come with situations, you're going to have moments where you're going to hear things that are hard to hear. But then, as she just pointed out, if you can get past the pride problem, you could recognize that it was what you needed to hear. Problem is, if you don't get past the pride problem, you get upset, angry, and you blame the ministry and everything else. So, because I know you've gotten through, that's why I wanted you to be able to help them see that. Okay? Because when she's banging up against the same wall over and over again, that means that somebody needs to tell her certain things that may be hard to hear.
Right.
Okay? But if you can receive it, then you may get what you need so that you can then start finally making some progress. And so that's what I wanted you to be able to hear her explain, yes, it's been rough, she's been going through some things, but when she did the things she was supposed to. She came to leadership, she got to hear some things that weren't necessarily easy to hear, then she had to bring it before the Father, look at herself in the mirror and realize, I need to own this, or I'm not going to be anywhere out of this cycle that I'm in.
Right.
To break out of the cycle. Okay? So thank you.
Just a real quick, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
just real quick. Abba just showed me something recently is I was in that mode where why can't I get this right? What is going on with me? Why do you keep pointing out, the same things that I'm going through? Why is leadership so hard on me sometimes? And I had a situation this morning with my daughter, and it was where she was at this, why do you keep bragging me about the same thing? Why do you keep yelling at me about the same thing? Why can't you just let it go? And it was like, I didn't even think about it. I just said, because I want you in the kingdom.
And then you realize it's exactly what was happening to you.
That's exactly what Abba was saying to me.
There you go. There you go. Excellent. 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 See, now that's a knowing, you see? From that experience, guess what it did? It created in her a different thought process. It made her, it says make in me, create in me, cause me, give me. See, through that moment, Abba lit her light bulb up and said, oh, that's what you're doing to me, what I'm doing to her. I'm doing it to my daughter, that's what you're doing to me. See? That's why Abba gives us family members, children, spouses. Sometimes we have to see, through the other lens. Amen. Okay, Amy?
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I just have a comment when you were talking about the structure. And for me, when I was in Christianity, every time, and I went to a lot of different churches in a short time, but I wanted to be under leadership. I wanted to learn. I wanted to understand what was the truth so I could be different. And every time I would go to them, they didn't have time for me. You know, they couldn't really tell me what to do. And at that time, I was having trouble with my youngest son, and I wanted to be a better mother. I wanted to do things right. And nobody could give me an answer. And it wasn't even until I started watching you in the fall of 2016, and you used to say almost every single week, you or Robert would say, we're always here for you. Somebody, a real person is going to answer the phone. If you have questions, if you need help with anything, we are here for you, and we're going to be responsible for what we tell you, you know, and you're responsible for the doing. And I remember sitting there going, I need help. I want help, you know, and that's why I called. And then I could, once I started applying what I was being told, you know, and then I started becoming what I wanted, right? I started becoming a better parent. I started becoming a better friend, a better employee, all those things. So why wouldn't we want structure? I mean,
Amen.
And you've said many times to people that come here, right, and they tout about how great you are and this, that, and the other, and then next thing you know, they're out the door. And you say, well, why did you even come here? You have to know why you want to move here. And so for everybody that is wanting to move here, you know, just really think about that. Like, why do you want to move here?
Amen.
Because you have one perception when you're watching live stream, and then when you get here, a lot of times that's crushed because it's not what you really think it is. So I just wanted to say thank you, because I've never been disappointed for moving here.
Amen.
And I had a lot of troubles to even get here. So I'm always thankful to Yahweh for bringing me here.
Amen.
So thank you.
Amen. And by the way, let me just kind of put this out there, because it was the last thing that she said. Some of you may think that if it's Abba's will you're supposed to be here, then everything will work out smoothly. That hasn't happened for anybody. All right? There are those that once they got here, it took them 6 months or longer or a year to get a job or to get, you know, and those kind of things. It's taken some people, you know, longer to get whatever it is going that you would think would have to get going. So, you know, Abba wants to see, as I said earlier, are you serious? How serious are you? How badly do you want it? How committed are you? All right? And then when you get here, you may find that you run into one of the leadership or whatever, and then we may challenge some of those thoughts too. Is this really what you want? You know? Because some of you are like, well, I'm just lonely where I'm at. I want to go there. There's a lot of people. Well, that's true. That'll get fixed. There's a lot of people. And so you won't be as lonely. But there are people here trying to build a community and be within a structure and do things that you may not be ready to do. Are you ready to do that? Okay, because we're really trying to develop a practice center for kingdom life so we can rehearse and practice that. All right? Amen?
I just wanted to add that the real work starts when you get here, because I made some changes and thought I was doing great when I was sitting up in my house in New York by myself. You know, I thought, yeah, I'm really applying this. This is great. And then you get here and you got all these other people, right, and their personalities. And then to apply what you're learning, that's the really hard stuff.
Amen.
And so I'm
Amen.
so thankful that, you know, there's been a few people that left, but a lot of us have stayed to do the hard work, to work together.
Amen. Amen. All right.
I want to comment off of these two. She's right. You come here, you think you're all that, and you got this, and you do that, and this and that, and guess what? Abba's going to put that person in front of you in the area of your or how about your hidden struggle, and he's going to bring it right out in front, and like melt it or how you furnace it, and it's like he's going to force you either fix it or you're going to run away. And so you can be ready.
Amen. Amen. Billy's got his hand up in the back. Look, you're going to get to that thought of running away moment, okay? Somebody was like a few times, okay? You're going to get to those places where, you're just going to want to run. And that's those big, important, critical test moments, Are you going to run? Look, there's a lot, listen, I don't want to just, pick on marriages, but you know what? Almost every marriage gets to that point at some point. And the good ones make the changes they need to from that point. Don't think if you're single and never been married, don't think a great marriage is a marriage that never has a problem, because there are no such things. That does not exist. And anybody that tells you that they never fight with their spouse, and then they're not married. Okay? They may have had a ceremony, but they're not married. I don't know what they're doing, but if they're married, they've had moments, okay? And it's as you figure those things out and get through them and don't leave and work together and sort through it, then you can have a great marriage, because now you know how to deal with the stuff that is not perfect and ideal in the way that the two people do or don't mesh together. Because sometimes you mesh together beautifully, and that's why you got married, but not always. But guess what? That's the same thing with congregation members, same thing with the rabbi and the students, the teacher and the students, that kind of. There's always going to be in every relationship those moments where you're like, what did I get myself into? Or I really don't like the way this feels right now, and I'm going to leave. I didn't sign up for this. And then what do you do with those moments? All right, go ahead.
Okay, from Olivier and Janet Hoffman. It says in 119, verse 75, can afflictions be directly caused by us, meaning we undergo the natural consequences of our actions? So we keep recreating a constant affliction/trail because we are not changing.
Yes. That certainly could be a part of it.
Okay, from Klein family, it says, Rabbi, verses 75 through 80, do you agree Abba's word here is the foundational instructions to have what you blessedly remind us regularly, emunah?
Amen. I don't know what I was supposed to. These are comments, and I like them. They're good.
Okay, from Madison, says, is the struggle of developing full emunah exemplified in the cry of the man in Mark 9:24? Master, I believe, help my unbelief.
Okay, so that's where Yeshua says, if you are able to believe, all is possible to him who believes. Immediately the father of the child cried out and said in tears, I believe, Master, help my unbelief. Okay, so excuse me, this is where you have to understand the balance, the difference between belief and trust. Okay? You believe in the Father, you know he exists. You believe in Yeshua, you know he exists. You believe in a lot of things, but do you trust it? See, belief and trust together is where you get emunah from, okay? It has to be that combination. And so, yes, I think the person in Mark 9 is dealing with that. He says, I believe, conceptually, I understand, I believe it to be true, I just don't trust it. And that doesn't make sense, because you believe something, how can you not trust it? But you can, you have that problem. Okay? There's a lot of men out there that know they're supposed to be under some sort of authority. They believe that, but they don't trust it, so they don't do it. A lot of ladies know they need to be submitted to their husbands. They believe that, but they don't trust it. There's a lot of children, you just keep going down the structure. We believe something, but we don't trust it. Oh, but Rabbi, I have reasons not to trust my husband. Well, you've got reasons not to trust anything. These people here, they got reason to believe. They've seen all kinds of so-called gods all over the place and deities all over the place and already worshiping all kinds of stuff, and they've seen those things do nothing. So believing and trusting don't automatically go hand in hand. All right, next.
Okay, from Olivier and Janet Hoffman, and verse 77, would it be correct to say that when we delight on his Torah, we receive his compassion and mercy?
Yeah, that's what he's talking about there exactly. Okay? We're going to receive compassion even when we're not keeping his Torah, because in his compassion, he's going to smack us a little bit. He's going to give a little smack, like, hello, wake up. And that's still compassion. And for those of you that are not just staying at home like people say you're supposed to, let me put my hands together like this and say, tenet. Okay, never mind. Well, when I went like this before, I put my hands together, I thought of that, but anyway. Movie reference.
Okay.
I only did that because it made Lynn crack up, so. All right, go ahead.
From Philip Mason, verse 78, or there's a couple people asking about this. In verse 78, in regards to studying the Word, do we study on our own or listen to the teacher who studies? And Michelle Perez asks in verse 78, is studying the Torah and your teachings the same as studying Yah's orders?
Let's see, all of the above to some degree. Okay, look, they're studying the Word. Listening to a teaching is also studying, because you should have the book in front of you and look at it and make sure it says what the teacher's saying and that kind of thing. So listening to teachings can be that. But you got to remember that if I'm saying something and you have not already inputted that by studying the Word, at least being aware of it, putting the information in, your brain isn't going to right away correlate what I'm talking about, because you're like, oh, I know what he's talking about. And so the idea of studying, I think, has to be adjusted. Okay, we read, we meditate, we put that information in. Part of when you study, by the way, is you hear the voices of your teachers telling you what that stuff was and what it means. You're reminded through the ruach of those things, but also you're reminded through your own spirit if it's like stuff your teachers in the past said. So when people tell me, oh, well, I've read this stuff, and every time you read it exactly the way your pastor told you. Okay, as the way you understood it your whole life. And now when I'm teaching it, it's swimming upstream against all of that. And so, when he talks about studying it, we have to understand what that means, okay? If you're not, I could pick up a book having never studied physics, and it's going to be hard for me to just study it and understand everything it's talking about if I've never studied it. I could pick up a book maybe about auto mechanics. I never did any auto mechanic work. I could look at a book. I'm only going to understand so much without a teacher, without somebody to guide me through just doing it from a book, from a manual, all right? And so, yes, you should be reading your book and meditating on the Word, especially the stuff that you understand. But it's when you have a teacher that, A, you'll come to understand things you never understood, and you'll come to understand things that you understood incorrectly. Because you got to be careful. Studying things incorrectly over and over again just helps you have a very solid understanding of it the wrong way. All right? So I don't want to tell you you shouldn't study on your own, but you have to understand that the parts that you do not have teacher backup on, you should be careful with, because you will not necessarily understand it correctly. All right? That's not because, again, you're stupid or any other thing. It's simply because that's not the way he designed it to be. All right? So if you've had a teacher and you've been studying your whole life with teacher, and the teachers, you got years of understanding all these teachings, then when you go to study, you're like, oh, I saw the word perfect there. I know what that means. My teachers explained that to me about integrity and all those things. Oh, I see the word fear. I understand what he's talking about fear there, because the teachers already taught us about the fear of Yahweh, and I understand. See, now when you're studying, you have resources to study with. But without the teacher and the teachings, you don't. And then you don't really understand what you're looking at. But that takes a humbleness. That pride has to be broken to be able to do that, to recognize that, because we have a lot of that out there. Oh, I'm smart, I can study, Abba opened my eyes, I understand the Bible. I have people get in my face all the time telling me how wrong I am and how stupid I am, because after all, they've been doing this for 5 years, and that I'm wrong, And by the way, length of time doesn't make me right. I'm just saying is there are people that will come out of, well, I've been doing this a long time. How long? Oh, since 2018. That's a long time? Well, compared to other people they're meeting. Okay? But when I tell you how perverted, and I'm not saying that in like a strong and insulting way, How much twisting of just little pieces here and there that are going on out there, and big pieces too, that if you're listening to all of that stuff out there, you are going to be confused. You're going to understand things incorrectly just because there's so much of that. Just you have to be careful. But how do you know? This is why you have to find the guys Paul was talking about, the ones that Moses was talking about in Deuteronomy 18. Those anointed appointeds that you can trust. You have to go look for them. You can't just find someone that seems like they know it better than you do, so therefore they must know what they're talking about. Especially when they put it in a palatable flavor. Because you tend to like the ones that you love their delivery. Oh, but he's got such a nice voice, and he's so soft, and he's so, and then you get me. You're like, I don't want to listen to that guy. This other guy, I want to go over here. I couldn't do that if I tried. Okay? Because I turn on to some of these guys and go, no wonder some people like this guy and he's so popular. He talks like this and he says, oh, and over here it says that we need to fear him. And that's a good idea, don't you think? And that's kind of what I hear. Well, they sound like Mr. Rogers reading off of cue cards. Can you say emunah, boys and girls? I knew you could. Oh, you know who I'm talking about, don't you? All right. By the way, I may not be talking about whoever you think of, but everyone's got their own mind what they think that's all about, right? Okay? And again, I'm not trying to pick on any of these things. There is a legitimate need to have some of this stuff called out, at least indirectly, so that you know to look for it. Okay? You need to be aware, are you drawn to something because it's truth or because it feels good? Okay? That's the important part. Are you drawn to it because you like the delivery? Because I know a lot of you out there did not necessarily and some of you love the delivery. You like the hard, straightforward. Not everybody likes that. I get that. I can't change it, but I get that. But liking it's completely irrelevant. All right? It needs to be. The information's what's important, and that it's getting your attention and getting you to take action on it is what's important. So you have a relationship with it. So you can be Torah observant, not, And by the way, this is something I want you all to do, change your language. We're going to change one of your languages, and then we're never going to get to all these live streams. All right, I want you to change your language. Okay, just like you used to say, well, I have a friend and, they're saved or they're born again or they're this or they're that. Look, now the new phraseology people say, well, I have a friend and they're Torah observant, or I met this person and they're Torah observant. You have no idea if anybody's Torah observant. I refer to everybody, unless I've seen them for myself, as Torah pursuant. Okay? They're pursuing Torah observance. So you find out they keep Saturday, and they talk about feasts, so they're Torah pursuant. You have no idea if they work on every other Saturday. You have no idea if they work on feast days. You have no idea what they do. Okay? But they're Torah pursuant. Just kind of something I've started to teach the staff. Well, this person says they're Torah observant. I said, we don't know what they claim to be anything. I got a lot of teachers out there claim to be Torah teachers. That's a very loose understanding of the term. Okay, so we have to be careful. All right, Rob.
Okay, from Pete and Brenda Lamb, it says, verse 80, can this also mean that our integrity in Torah observance is conforming to Torah and not bending Torah to what we want?
Correct. When it's completing the whole idea that it was dealing with the pride thing in verse 78 and bringing it down to verse 80, yes.
Okay, from Olivia and Janet Hoffman, verse 80, says, when King David says, let my heart be perfect, is he saying, Abba Father, or he is saying, Abba Father allows us to be perfect because of the trials. He allows while we learn to walk his Torah. Is this correct?
Well, I think your statement's correct. I don't think that's what David's talking about. Okay, and look, he's simply saying, let my heart, my desires, my emotions, that which we attach to before we create action, let my heart have integrity towards your laws. Okay? It's more about the desires. Remember, we talk about the thought goes in through the mind, and then when it gets processed emotionally, we talk about that's where the heart sort of comes in. That's the metaphor we use, is that the emotions. And that's when emotions are attached, when actions tend to manifest, okay? So he's saying, look, let me have an integrity in my emotional approach to your laws, all right? Because that's where our drive and our passions, which drive us, come from, out of what we call the heart. So let me have an integrity towards your law, and don't let my emotions cause me to have a lack of integrity towards your laws. So what you said was correct. I mean, there wasn't anything wrong with what you said. I just don't think that's what David's saying here. All right, next question or point.
Okay, from Libby, Psalm 1, verse 83. Was it the affliction stretching him to the limit that he says, I have become like the wineskin?
Like I said in verse 83, I really don't know what that idiomatic phrase is actually trying to say. I made a little bit of a guess that it may have to do with how it dries out the skin, makes it more delicate, it could break and that kind of stuff. Could be a little bit what Yeshua was talking about, putting new wine in old wineskin. You know, we can kind of go with that metaphor. So I don't know. I don't know. Again, remember, we're dealing with, in Scripture, often a lot of idiomatic phrases, and if you can't go back to that time period and know what that phrase was kind of being used for, what the idiom was, we're going to have problems. So, next question.
From Evangeline Agalasso, says verse 74, those who fear you see me and rejoice. Does that mean those who know Yah rejoice in you?
Well, what he's saying is, look, those who fear Yahweh and they see David and they can see David as being in line with Yahweh should rejoice in seeing somebody because they really should be seeing Yahweh in him.
Okay, from Michelle Perez, says verse 79, David says, let those who fear Yahweh turn to him. We have you, Rabbi Steve, as our teacher. So is it correct to turn to you in the vertical structure and to the witnesses?
Yeah, if you're turning to an anointed, appointed to a teacher, the teacher is going to be those who know the witnesses. The witnesses are what? The scriptures, the accounts, and all of that stuff to help you understand what you're supposed to glean out of it, yes. So we are to turn to those things, or those people who have those things to teach you.
Okay, from Jessica T., verse 78, being perverted by lies. Is this similar to being taught by Christian doctrine, realizing that it wasn't truth, and then studying Scripture to remain on the right path?
Well, I mean, I like the point that you're making. I don't think that's what's going on here. What's going on here is that he's saying, look, the proud are those who are perverting or have bought into the perversion of the truth. What you're talking about is the shift from being the proud to being those with integrity. Okay, so that's true, okay? When you recognize that which is twisted and you start to now come out of that understanding, reject that and get new understanding, so you're describing the correct process. What's being described in verse 78 is those that have chosen not to do that, okay? They're embracing or actively perverting the truth. Now, bear in mind that Christian doctrine is the least of your problem. Because almost every one of you, if not every one of you, came out of that recognizing that it was not the right place to be. What the problem is that you come into Torah observant belief, and now every flavor under the sun is being taught out there on YouTube and everywhere else, and that's where you have to now be looking for what is perverted and twisted. Okay? Because you used to be trying to compare it in a Christian mindset. That's why you went from being a whatever, like a Baptist or Methodist, and then you became a charismatic or vice versa, or you were a Catholic and then you became a Lutheran. When you were one thing and then you changed another thing, you were looking at the twisting and what you thought of was twisting within that realm. But now you're in a whole new realm, and the same thing is going on. Okay? So getting out of that noise and that twisting and confusion was only one step in the process. Now you have to be aware of all the landmines in the new place. okay, where there's plenty of the same thing happening. And guess why that is? Because the people in it came from the other place. And they brought it with them, which is why I say that you get the Messa-Catholic, Messa-Baptist, Messa-Costal, Messa-whatever. Because it's the Torah observance through a Christian denomination mindset. And so you're still getting that doctrinal, positional, mindset being taught in the various places. So you can go to a place and say, wow, if it wasn't for calling him Yeshua, this was very Baptist, or it's very Lutheran, or it's very, Pentecostal, it's very whatever. I mean, it's everything else sounded just like where you went to, except some more Hebrew. And that it's on Saturday. I mean, otherwise, it was pretty much what you used to get wherever you used to go. Matter of fact, some place you can go, you can get the same music that you used to get. You're right back there listening to Hillsong and everything else. We should be getting away from all that. Because, and by the way, I'm not against the language and the words and the music. Some of the music has some really powerful messages that I would agree with. But it brings you back to that place, up here and in here, in your head and in your heart. It brings you right back to that place. And for a lot of you, the response is that you don't want to go back. So it makes you uncomfortable. And others of you, you start really enjoying it, and then you get mad at yourself, why do I like going back to that? It's just very challenging, which is why we don't do that here. We've tried to eliminate anything that we can that goes and connects back to that place. Next comment or question.
From Leanne, is it possible, given Noah's genealogy, that he was part of that structure Yahweh put into place who the people failed to trust enough to follow/obey?
Oh, he was. Enoch was too, before Noah. Okay? And they weren't listening to Enoch either. All right? And so, yeah, I mean, we see this going out throughout. We see this playing out throughout. Okay, what else you got?
Okay, just a comment from Geraldine Hidalgo.
Oh, wait. To go back to the Noah thing real quick. So Noah, as we understand, and it's coming out of some of the peripheral books, but Noah, Shem, etc., they were literally the anointed, appointed teachers that taught Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's what we call the Melchizedekian priesthood. Okay? And that's the priesthood that is now still teaching today, of which I would be a part of. Right? I'm clearly not a Levitical priest. We're not doing temple service. All right? I did have my genealogy checked. I don't have the Kohanim gene, although I am, genetically Ashkenazi Jew, but I'm not, I'm not the Kohanim. But it doesn't matter. It's the Melchizedekian is the function, the role that I function in. Okay? From that point of view from Scripture. All right, go ahead.
Okay, from Geraldine Hidalgo, a comment. I know that there is structure within MTY because I'm alone here in Canada, yet I'm not lonely and feel safe because I'm connected to MTY. It's been difficult, but I thank Yah for his word.
Amen. Thank you that was fantastic. All right, is that it? Okay, we're good. All right, where are the children? I'm probably in the hallway.